Hi and welcome to another episode of the We Need the Roads podcast. And last night, Darth Vader came down from planet Vulcan and told me if I didn't take Lorraine out, he'd melt my brain. I'm your host Neil Gregory, and I'm joined as always by my co-host David Long. How's it going, David?
It was going all right, Neil, until I read your script and I saw David's generic intro written into the script. So, because you said my intros are generic, I'm going to tell a joke. What do you call a magician that loses his magic?
I don't know. What do you call a magician who loses his magic?
Ian.
Anyway, sidestepping that verbal atrocity, this is actually a bit of a different episode, once again. We will get back to our regularly scheduled programming quite soon, but we didn't realise today when we went to record that it was the Oscar nominations. We'd already planned to talk about the Bafta nominations for a little bit, and completely forgot that the Oscar nominations were happening. So this whole podcast is going to be us going through a whole bunch of films that aren't really even available in the UK yet, that we've mainly not seen. But hold fire, because there is a hell of a lot of stuff online about it. Are we going to give you our views on what we think the picks of this year's awards ceremonies are going to be, and get a little bit more into the diversity issues surrounding the Oscars over the last couple of years, and what we think on the current nominations. So enjoy.
News.
Now, as we said, we didn't actually realise the Oscar nominations were happening the day we were recording this podcast. So we're going to quickly run through the notes we put together on the Baftas first, and then see how it chimes with the Oscar noms that come out today, and our initial reactions to all that as well. So the Baftas were announced last week, and for once the internet didn't explode with cries of underrepresentation, and we actually ended up with probably one of the most diverse Bafta lists you're ever going to get. The only issue we have this year is that, bar the trial of the Chicago 7 and the forthcoming The Mauritanian, many of these Oscar-nominated films and BAFTA-nominated films have not been released in this country yet, being the UK where we're recording this. So the general public will have not had the opportunity to see many of these films before the ceremony in April this year. Obviously, we can argue that COVID is largely responsible for this, but for me, that doesn't really stack up, because COVID's only really stopped blockbuster movies dead in its track. Every year, when you look at the films that are nominated for the Oscars and the BAFTAs, they're generally the smaller, more art house, indie, prestige dramas, and those films have kept being released throughout the year. In fact, you can almost argue that some of these films are going to get more attention because of the lack of blockbusters this year, and it's actually been beneficial for the smaller foreign and independent films. But then again, how many times has the average person, i.e. not film geeks like us, have not even heard of, let alone seen many of the Oscar-nominated films?
Yeah.
However, if and when a film scores a few awards, it does give it a bit more cachet, and then it's going to be re-released, put on DVD or streaming these days, and it does get a lot more eyes on it. Good example was last year. I went to see Parasite on a Monday night preview, and it had about 10 people in the cinema. Then it won a shitload of Oscars, and the cinema was 3/4 full on the re-release. So proof right there. Doesn't matter what the film is, you give it some awards, people will go and see it.
Parasite had a lot of buzz about it, though, as well. It wasn't just the award.
And so will some of the films we're going to be bringing up in a little while, though. Because part of me actually wonders this year if it's part of like the major studios' plan is, well, look, no one's had a chance to see these films yet. The Oscars and the BAFTAs are pretty much going to be the first time people are seeing these. And so by giving these awards to all these different films that no one's had a chance to see yet, when those films do eventually come out, people, oh, there's someone that won the Oscar, we'll go and see it. So I think it almost might be a way of promoting the films for their eventual releases this year.
You might be onto something. Personally, I do think it's probably COVID-related. Pandemics hit the world, obviously, and there's been delays. And I don't think it is just blockbusters that have been delayed. I think these smaller movies.
Oh no, they have been delayed,
movies. But yeah. So I think that is a part of it. I mean, you might be onto something.
Well, I don't think the studios.
It did blow up after it won awards. So, I mean, it could be a smarter way of almost promoting these films to get bigger audiences when they do get released, which will only help the BAFTAs and Oscars going forward. Because let's face it, they've been dipping in viewership for a few years now, haven't they?
If people care about how many people are watching the ceremony, I bet if you work in the industry and you're a director or an actor who's been nominated, I probably don't give a shit how many people are watching the ceremony.
No, you wouldn't care. But the BAFTAs and the Oscars are going to care. So is it a way of the BAFTAs and the Oscars to also build interest in themselves by building interest in the films by promoting the films that they're mentioning?
Yeah,
Do you want to make sense? It's like one big loop, that sort of.
I think you're right there, because the biggest issue straight away is, what are the BAFTAs and the Oscars, right? Everyone goes, oh, well, they're the best films. Well, are they, though? Because they're not the most popular films. The films that take the most money at the box office are rarely rewarded at the box office.
Yeah, it's your definition of best, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what it comes
exactly.
down to.
And as I said earlier on, the Oscars generally focus on smaller, more independent films that are backed by, like a major studio's art house arm. So, Sony Picture Classics and Miramax back in the day. And they go, right, this is a film we're going to put all our machinery behind, and that's the one we're going to push for the Oscars.
Yeah.
And that's essentially how it does it.
Yeah, you'll very rarely see almost like a horror or comedy film.
Genre films never get a shout out, man. It's always, and it comes back to this thing, doesn't it? Oscar films and awards films, the acting performances, it's always someone who's got to beat an ism, racism, sexism, or a debilitating disease, having to overcome a thing.
Yeah.
And the acting performances are usually big and over the top, and you're like, wow, look at the acting. It's almost like Team America. That's some of the greatest acting I've ever seen, Gary. Whereas the more internal, nuanced performances, they kind of get missed because they don't grab as many attention and eyes, unfortunately. But there are a few changes this year, which we're going to get into. So first up, we're going to look at the 5 best film nominations for the Baftas. First up is The Father, directed by Florian Zeller, starring Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman. And essentially, it's a two-hander with Hopkins and Colman playing father and daughter dealing with his dementia. Now, again, this isn't out yet in the UK, and it's due out in June 2021, despite it being premiered at last year's Sundance Festival almost a year ago. But this is what I mean. This type of film sounds exactly like your typical awards fair.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be really good. I'm sure Hopkins gives an amazing performance of someone dealing with dementia. But you really need to be in the right mood to watch that type of film. And how different is it from a similar type of films that have been released over the last couple of years?
Yeah. I think if this film was to come out 10, 15 years ago, you'd probably be thinking of it as a potential winner. But because it's coming out now and it's not necessarily what audiences want right now, it's probably not going to be in for probably not going to win. But
no,
this is one of the. It
has been nominated 6 times, hasn't it?
So this is one of the 3 films that I haven't seen on the list. Well, I haven't seen a lot of them because I can't. But this is one of the 3 that I'm looking forward to seeing because it would really hit home for me at the moment because my granddad, who's recently turned 89, is struggling with dementia. And that's slowly crept up on him. So this is something that I'm really quite looking forward to seeing, how dementia is depicted from the perspective of the person dealing with it. Because it's like when we go and speak to him, I can have a conversation with my granddad and he'll be like, and then out of nowhere, he'll think that I'm my uncle or my dad. And it's really odd to sort of then continue the conversation with him thinking that I'm, or he'll think that he's gone back to being an 18-year-old. It's really odd. So I'm from a personal level, I'm really looking forward to this film.
How many people have had that similar thing happen in their life, that similar experience in their lives? I just think there's been a lot of films over the years with this exact same kind of storyline. So to me, it's not original.
Is it not original seeing it through the perspective of the person with dementia?
Is it through his perspective?
I think so. I think based off what I've seen, it looks as if a lot of the confusion that you're going to see as an audience member, you're going to experience the character's confusion, and you're going to think that something is going on, like this all a setup sort of thing. But he's obviously got dementia.
Because again, we haven't. Because see, the problem is we've not seen the film yet.
I'm only going off what I've seen of the trailer and stuff like that.
Next up, we've got The Mauritanian, directed by Kevin MacDonald, starring Tahir Rahim, Jodie Foster, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Shailene Woodley. Now, this is a legal drama based on the autobiography of a former Guantanamo Bay prisoner, Mohamedi Ould Sahali. Now, after a few awards at the Golden Globes recently, Foster and Rahim are good shouts for more awards already. And it is due out on Amazon Prime in April, so it will be one of the films that we actually get to see right before the ceremony. But again, there's been very similar films come out in the last couple of years, legal dramas to deal with people who have been wrongly imprisoned. So again, it's one of these films where I look at it before I've seen it.
Treading familiar territory.
Familiar territory, yeah.
It's hitting the same sort of beats. I mean, this is one that I'm not looking forward to watching. I'll watch it, but I'm not necessarily looking forward to watching it. This is going to be one where I've got to be in a certain mood.
Yeah,
to watch
and
it.
I mean, and like you say, and that's exactly how I feel about The Father. It's been nominated for quite a few BAFTAs, The Mauritanian, but it's been completely snubbed at the Oscars. Not one nomination. So that's a bit strange there that's not, it hasn't carried over in any way. Next up, the third film nominated for Best Film is probably everyone's favourite with the bookies this year, Nomadland, which is directed by Chloe Zhao and stars 2018 Best Actress at the Baftas and double Oscar winner Frances McDormand.
Who's probably going to win as well for Best Actress.
Yeah, probably going to win it. Yeah, I mean, you don't bet against McDormand. McDormand's like the new Streep now. If she's nominated, she's probably going to win it.
That's a good. Yeah, she is.
But the film is about a woman in her 60s who, having lost pretty much everything, decides to embark on a journey through the American West, living in a van as a modern-day nomad. Now, from all the films I've not seen this year, this is the one generating the most buzz, and it has been enough of a calling card that director Zhao has been snapped up by Marvel, and she's currently putting the finishing touches to her first major Marvel blockbuster, The Eternals, which hopefully could be with us as well this year. And from the few that have seen the footage of that film, we are told to expect something very special. So, I mean, the fact you have a Chinese woman has been nominated for Best Director and Best Film, that's pretty groundbreaking. And the fact that she's going to have this art house, multi-Oscar winning, BAFTA winning smash potentially. And also, she could then have probably the biggest blockbuster box office smash with a Marvel film later in the year, in the same year. Yeah, so it's going to be a hell of a year.
She's sort of come out of nowhere for a lot of people, hasn't she? She's just this, like, bam, she's going to hit into stardom. I think a lot of people are going to know her name come soon.
Yeah, exactly.
But Nomadland's the second film that I'm really looking forward to seeing because of all the talk about it. It won the Golden Globe, didn't it, for Best Picture?
To be fair, the Golden Globes, as we keep hinting, just outwardly saying, are pretty much a joke as a ceremony. Our fourth film up for Best Film is Promising Young Woman, directed by first-time director Emerald Fennell, who was better known as the actress who played Camilla Parker Bowles on The Crown. And now this film is a sharply divisive, pitch-black comedy drama with a powerhouse of a performance by Carey Mulligan. It's ostensibly about a young woman who goes out and targets men she thinks will take advantage of her, the so-called nice guys, and then she play acts before confronting them. The controversy just around the subject matter of this film is already through the roof. And, the flames were fanned even more by some dumbass journalist saying that he didn't actually think Mulligan was hot enough to play the role to entice his men in, and that one of the film's producers, Margot Robbie, would have been a better choice. Literally, to have that comment about a film of this subject matter, it unleashed a unholy shitstorm of conversation around the film that's still swirling today.
Yeah, not the
But we're definitely going to be reviewing this when it's out again, but we are still waiting for a release date on it.
And it's very current at the moment as well, especially among women with everything that's going on, especially in England at the moment and Australia as well.
Yeah, I think this film's really going to sort of, when it comes out on a major release, it's going to be held up. I'm
hoping it's going to be one of those films that you'll look back on and you'll think that it educated a generation almost. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm going to mention this later on as well, that the power of films are able to educate people as well, and I think this could be one of those that'll educate people on general sexual assault that happens on pretty much every woman whenever they go out on a night out. And I'm hoping this is what Promising Young Woman achieves, and if it does, that'll be bigger than anything that it'll do at the Oscars / BAFTAs.
From the opinions I've seen online, it really splits people down the middle. And we're talking, I mean, this comes from quite a lot of the female reviewers who I follow online as well. And a lot of them absolutely love it, and a lot of them absolutely can't stand it.
Yeah, so what we're going off what we know of the film. We obviously haven't seen it yet.
But yeah, like you say, I think it's a perfect storm of events for this film to come out now. And I really think it's going to get a hell of a lot of traction when it does eventually get released, hopefully over here quite soon now. But that brings us now to our last film up for Best Film, and it's Aaron Sorkin's The Trial of the Chicago 7. His legal drama, about the Chicago 7 case. And it is one of the few films that we've actually seen. Yeah. And it's actually, because it actually came out on Netflix last year.
Yeah.
Now, I've been a Sorkin fan for years. I've watched Sports Night, The West Wing, like everyone, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip that was unfairly maligned. I even watched The Newsroom, and now he's moved into feature films. And it's good, but for me, it's not that classic best film you get at the Oscars.
Yeah.
I think out of the two legal dramas you're going to have this year, I think The Mauritanian is probably going to be the stronger film. And that's from having seen this as well. I mean, I know that Sacha Baron Cohen's got a lot of credit for his performance, but you know what? I thought it's actually one of Eddie Redmayne's best performances, because usually I can't stand Eddie Redmayne. I don't know. There's just something about him I don't like,
Fair
and
enough.
did not annoy me in this.
Right. Okay.
So,
Well, that's good from his.
Also, I mean, Frank Langella was amazing as the old racist
yeah.
psycho judge.
Yeah.
Where's his awards nomination? He hasn't got nominated for
I
anything.
feel like
he was really good
for his performance of that judge. Yeah, who annoyed you just watching him. You felt how the defendants felt. Towards that judge. It is like one of the only films that I've actually able to watch so far. If I'm honest, I was kind of surprised that it was nominated because, I don't know, I struggle to think of Netflix films as, actual recognisable Oscar films still, even though...
The Irishman says hello, Roma says hello.
Yeah, all right, but I'm still in that transition phase, all right? So... So I'm still sort of there. Don't get me wrong, like, it was a really good film. Like, I personally think Sacha Baron Cohen stole the film, along with Frank Langella.
Yeah.
The film was all about inciting a riot. I mean, talk about current again, with everything that happened with Trump. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if that got a film in 20 years' time as well.
Mate, they're probably going to have a film out by the end of the year about it.
Yeah, the whole world is
It'll be a shit film, and then we'll have to wait, but, for the good one. Because you need that lens of time to look back at stuff objectively. Right, so that wraps up our picks out. I mean, from those 5 best films, well, we can't really give you a pick because we haven't seen half of them. But I think if you're just judging by what the other critics are saying who have seen the films, I'm pretty sure that Nomadland seems to be the pick for everyone this year. Yeah. I think Nomadland or Promising Young Woman would be the shock surprise one as well. But again, with, like you say, the issues it handles, you never know. It could be the year that they go, right, we're giving it that film because of it.
Why was The Sound of Metal not there?
Because it just wasn't. It wasn't nominated. Sound of Metal, no, not for best film. No.
Okay, well, it has been nominated for best film at the Oscars, right?
At the Oscars, yeah, but the Oscars can name up to 10 films for best film, and the BAFTAs only name 5, so they have a smaller field when it comes to it. So that brings us on to leading actress, and we have Buki Bakray for Rocks, which is on Netflix right now and is directed by Sarah Gavron and was put together by a relative cast of unknowns through after-school workshops. You then have Radar Blank for the 40-year-old version on Netflix.
The 40-year-old version?
No, not the 40-year-old version. Completely different film that I actually, again, I don't know actually anything about. Next up, you have Vanessa Kirby in Pieces of a Woman, a drama that's, again, available on Netflix for a little while now, about a woman who loses a child, and apparently those scenes near the start of the film are some of the harshest that have ever been filmed. And again, it's one of these films where, like The Father, it's about a certain subject matter, and it's going to be really well done, it's going to be acted impeccably, but you just have to be in the right mood to watch it.
I think that's the case with a lot of these Oscar films, BAFTA films. You've just got to be in the right mindset and the right mood to really watch.
For the next leading actress, we have Frances McDormand for Nomadland, who, again, is pretty much a shoo-in for everyone critically at the minute. But then we have Wunmi Musaku for His House. David, tell me about His House.
I was so happy to see His House in just being recognised in any way. So His House is the story of 2 refugees from South Sudan, and their struggle to basically adapt and fit into UK society, and they're being haunted by the actions of the past, I guess you could say. I don't want to get too spoily, because if you haven't seen it, it's really
I haven't seen it yet.
Really good film. You haven't seen it, right?
No.
Yeah, no, definitely watch it. I think you'll really like it. Honestly, it's the film is a massive eye-opener in regards to refugees in the UK, especially for us, Neil, because we live in Kent, right, where refugees are coming from illegal refugees are coming from France all the time, and there is this sort of local, there is this sort of local dislike and stigma towards them, right?
Oh, there has been for years, unfortunately.
But this film will really change your perspective on how you might have thought of them before. I mean, I never really had that so much, but I know my parents and other people of a certain age generation have had these thought processes. So I think that will change it. It is really haunting how the couple deal with the terror that they deal with. It rips right through you, and even after you learn what they had to do to get to the UK, and which I mean, I'm
assuming it's pretty grim.
I can't remember where they went in the UK, but I can only be described as the dustbin of England.
But the other thing about this is it's ostensibly a horror film.
Yeah, it is a horror film.
A horror film has been nominated for. But having said that, so then in that case, if you're nominating a horror film, where is Elizabeth Moss from The Invisible Man? because that was an amazing performance.
It was.
And again, with all the subtext, well, it wasn't even subtext, with just the outright story of her trying to get away and being a victim of abuse and a survivor of abuse, and then having, I mean, that's like every survivor's nightmare, right? Is someone not believing you. So then you've got an invisible guy who everyone thinks is dead trying to, I mean, that was such a, I watched it again recently, and it just, her performance was amazing in that. And again, snubbed, not nominated anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, both performances from His House, male and female leads, absolutely smashed it. Deservedly so, like deservedly nominated.
And our last nominee for Best Actress is Elfrey Woodard from Clemency, which, tell me if you've heard this one before. It's a film about a prison warden and how she struggles with the conditions of the inmates and how they treat them. And again, from all accounts, it's a really good film with a really amazing central performance. But it's that type of Oscar bait film.
Yeah, Oscar fodder, isn't it? Yeah.
Oscar fodder. So I'm sure it's amazing. But again, it is available to rent on Amazon Prime, but it's not included as part of the regular package at the moment. Which brings us on to Best Leading Actor, and I think that pretty much brings us on to a straight head-to-head race between Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal, which is still not available in the UK, which is a film about a heavy metal drummer slowly going deaf. And I'm, again, from what I've read about the film, I can't wait to see. There's going to be some amazing sound design work, right? You mentioned earlier on how the father is attempting to show Alzheimer's from the person who has its point of view. Yeah. And I think what you're going to get with The Sound of Metal, if everything I've read is correct, is you're going to have Riz Ahmed giving a performance about someone going deaf. And I'm sure if the sound design doesn't do that, then I'm amazed. I'm sure that's why the film's had so much
it must be.
Notice about it and buzz because of how they're doing it. Yeah. And then, of course, his biggest rival is going to be Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is also available on Netflix right now. Just to quickly run through the other nominees here. Yep. You have Ardash Gurath from The White Tiger, an Indian film on Netflix. Mm-hmm. Anthony Hopkins for The Father, which, again, from what we've discussed earlier, he could definitely put him in the conversation. And then you have Mads Mikkelsen of the Scandinavian film Another Round, which is about alcoholics. Basically, if you see a lot of Scandinavian shows, it's dark, grim, and people drink a lot. So clearly there was going to be a really good film made about it at some point. And then our other Best Actor nominee is Tahir Rahim from The Mauritanian, which again is going to be available on Amazon Prime on the 1st of April. So again, as we mentioned at the start, I think it's right between Riz Ahmed and Boseman.
I mean, we're going to be making a lot of assumptions on what we're going to think is going to win, or what even the film's going to be about, now, because we haven't seen them. But with Riz Ahmed, I feel like his casting is almost a product of Hollywood taking those steps, the correct steps, into casting more ethnic roles, not based on the fact that he is an ethnic actor, but based on pure merit. Because, I think 10 years ago, if you were casting someone for a heavy metal band bloke that goes deaf,
I'd be a long-haired white guy, 100%.
He probably wouldn't have got a look in. And I don't know if his sort of ethnic background comes into the film and its story at all. I hope it doesn't. I hope it's literally just down to his performance and the fact that he's deaf.
He was the best actor for the role. Yeah,
and that's and he was the best actor chosen for the role as well.
That's what we want, right? I mean, whenever there's all this debate about diversity and so should be nominated and so should be nominated, in a perfect world, it would just be the best actor for the role.
100%. You wouldn't even have the conversation.
Exactly. There shouldn't be a conversation around it. So we're going to quickly go on to Outstanding British Film, which we have Calm with Horses, The Dig, The Father, His House, Limbo, The Mauritanian, Mogul Mowgli, Promising Young Woman, Rocks, Ain't Saint Maud. From the list I've just read out, like I said, I don't know what The Dig's doing on the list. It's a great film for older people, but not a lot happened really slowly in it. And bearing in mind it was targeted towards people who have an interest in metal detecting and history, which is literally my dad, and he watched it and goes, well, he didn't. And his biggest complaint with the film was, well, he didn't show any of the treasure. So they didn't talk about it. They tacked on some half-assed love story with Lily James and another character halfway through, just to go, oh, look, it's not all just this old fella and a little kid. And having said that, great performance by Carey Mulligan again in that. So she's actually nominated in 2 films as well as Promising Young Woman.
Promising Young Woman is probably going to be the winner of them, but based on the fact that it's in with the shout for Best Picture, so it's probably going to win Best. It's a shoo-in, right? If you're going off that.
Nominating something like His House or Saint Maud, I think I'd love to see Saint Maud get it in Outstanding British Film, and then Promising Young Woman and Rocks get the bigger awards later on.
I think you'll really like His House. If you was to put St. Maud and His House against each other for me, and you asked me which one was better, which one I preferred, I'd probably say His House. But I did obviously, I spoke before in the last episode of my admiration for St. Maud, but so there you are. That shows how much I liked His House.
And the last nomination I'm going to look at in the BAFTAs is Outstanding Debut by a British writer, director or producer. And again, David, pick one from this. His House, Rocks, St. Maud, Limbo and Moffie. I don't actually know anything about Limbo or Moffie, but again, we've exposed about His House. Rocks, I think, is, when I get around to seeing it, is a film that a lot of people seem to love over here. And again, St. Maud, what I would like to see is 1-on-1, you know? Give one of them best film.
Yeah, split them. So
give one of them best outstanding British. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the best way to do that. Actually, I can't count, and we've got one more BAFTA to look at, which is Best Director. We've got Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, Shannon Murphy for Baby Teeth, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, Jamelia Zabanik for Quo Vadis Ida, and Sarah Gavron for Rocks. We've got a few films here that haven't been nominated in any other category. I mean, Shannon Murphy's Baby Teeth is on Netflix, and it's not been nominated in any other category.
Yeah, that's an odd one.
Bizarre. It's an odd one. Well, the same with Quo Vadis Ada. I know nothing about that
good
film.
Pronunciation there.
I did try a few times before.
Practice.
So the Oscar nominations were announced as well today that we completely forgot about. And as I said to David quite quickly, I said, I'm going to do something crazy and try to live tweet the results and reactions to them as they happened. Well, that didn't happen because it was way too fast and I'm not that quick a typer. I did.
Your little fingers must have been so cramped trying to do it.
There's a couple of spelling mistakes, but you know what? I think I did better than some bigger official websites did, who had some quite erroneous spelling mistakes, if I say so myself. So we're just going to start off. We're not going to go through all the categories again and talk in detail about all the films we've already talked about for the BAFTAs. So we're just going to quickly shoot through the four main categories, which are, for Best Film, we have The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, the only ones we haven't mentioned there were Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, and Minari. Minari is quite a gentle little film about a South Korean family who moved from California to the middle of Arkansas and try and get a farm going. That's pretty much it.
Don't really sell it there as a film, Neil.
I actually got to see this on a Friday, and a lot of people were like, lazy critics were saying, "Oh, well, it's this year's Parasite because it's it's South Korean." Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
You cannot be two more different films. This is like a gentle stroll in a meadow of a film. The stakes are so low in it, but there's some amazing performances in it. I mean, Stephen Yeun from The Walking Dead, Glenn has been nominated for an Oscar as well today for Best Actor as well, which is awesome. So Glenn from The Walking Dead absolutely kicks it in a dick in this film. But I believe Alan Kim, who plays his son, has been nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I think he's like about 8 or 9, Alan Kim, the kid who plays his son. You know when you see kids acting on screen, you're like, oh yeah, that kid's acting. You watch this kid's performance, you're like, he's not acting, he's just doing what kids do. And that's what makes it so good. It's a funny thing. The more I think about the film, the more I like it. And I'm probably going to go back and watch it again when I get a chance. When I was watching, I was thinking, not a lot's really happening, really slowly. But it looks nice and the performances are good. So that was Minari. Next up was Mank.
How many nominations did Mank get? It was the most, right?
Mank got 10 nominations.
10 nominations, yeah, wow.
Mank is about the writing of Citizen Kane, and Gary Oldman gives yet another Oscar-nominated performance as Herman J. Mankiewicz, who is the co-writer of Citizen Kane. As we all know, Citizen Kane by Orson Welles regarded as one of the best films ever made. But the real story for me behind this film was that it's directed by David Fincher, and the script for Mank was actually written years and years ago by Fincher's own father, who sadly passed away a few years ago, Jack Fincher. So it would have been great. I would love to have seen a story but he hasn't been nominated. So if you look for the nominations, Jack Fincher wrote Mank, that his son then directed, but he wasn't nominated. So it's a bit unfortunate that. But again, Mank's nominated for 10 awards.
It's a right love project, isn't it, for him?
Yeah, he spent years trying to get it to the screen. And again, it's available on Netflix now. I saw it last year when it first came out, and it's a really good film. It's not quite at that level for me, though, of when you think about classic Oscar-winning films. It's a great film with a really good performance by Oldman, but once again, what's the other thing that Hollywood likes except films about overcoming obstacles and isms? It loves films about
Is it
Hollywood.
films about Hollywood? Yes, I knew.
Exactly, yeah. 10 points to David. 10 Hollywood points. Exactly that, yeah. Hollywood loves films about Hollywood. So if you're going to make a film about the classic Hollywood studio system in the days and, portray it in a fairly positive light, it's no surprise to me that Manx got that many nominations. And looking at those best film nominations, I just think this year you've got some more diverse films that are actually probably going to be the better films, such as Minari. Well, Minari's a weird one, man. Like, I don't get why it's got all the attention it's got. It's really well made. It's really enjoyable.
Well, that'd be why, isn't it? It sounds like, from what you're telling me, it sounds like a film about nothing.
Yeah, it really is.
It's just like a good watch. It's almost like a Terrence Malick film.
I think you summed it up perfectly there. Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay.
I mean, what surprised me about Minari was being deep in the heart of Arkansas, right? I was thinking, okay, and then they're going to meet the local rednecks, and they're going to have to deal with racism. No. Everyone they meet was really nice and helped them. It's like, I was like, that's such a nice film.
A proper change from what you usually get from cinema, isn't it? Where you come out of it completely depressed and just...
Yeah, but I mean, for my money, I'd like to see it be between Judas and the Black Messiah, which is just a powerhouse of a film, Nomadland, which is getting all the press, Promising Young Woman, which, as we've mentioned, is really relevant right at the moment, and Sound of Metal. You've got 4 films right there out of the 8 nominees that could really, really be a film where people look at and go, yeah, that's different. That's something I haven't seen before. You can watch Mank. Mank is also on Netflix right now, and you can now rent Judas and the Black Messiah on VOD as well now. So that's definitely should be worth your next one. For Best Director, we've got David Fincher for Mank, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, and Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. And this is the first year that we have 2 female nominees for the first time for Best Director. What is quite nice about the directing nominees this year is they're pretty much all first-time nominees, except David Fincher. And let's be honest, if Fincher was ever going to win an Oscar, it shouldn't be for this film. So he's been nominated for Mank this year, 2011 for The Social Network, and 2009 for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. So you can even argue he's not even been nominated for his best films, such as Seven and Fight Club.
And Zodiac as well.
Yep, wasn't nominated for Zodiac. Well, Gone Girl was
a
more
good
of a
film. I like Gone Girl.
It was a good film, but I don't think it's Oscar caliber film, and it's definitely not up there with Fight Club and Seven, which are classics. But like you say, your 4 other nominees are first-time nominees, so at least they're broadening the circle. I mean, again, we've mentioned I think Chloe Zhao is probably going to win it for Nomadland because that seems to be where all the buzz is at the minute. But I'd love to see Emerald Fennell win it for Promising Young Woman. I mean, I think that's got more to say currently.
Especially
from what I've read. So I think from that, my pick is probably Chloe Zhao, but I'd like to see Emerald Fennell win that.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I do, but I kind of think, I don't think David Fincher's going to win it now, but I feel like he does deserve one, but not this year.
No.
Like maybe in a future film that he'll make.
Okay, so now on to Best Actress, and we've got Viola Davis, Vanessa Kirby, Frances McDormand, Andrea Day, and Carey Mulligan. As we've mentioned, this is pretty much Frances McDormand's to lose every day, again for Nomadland. She won for Free Billboards? She won for Free Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri a few years ago, and that was about 20 years after she won for Fargo. So, I guess being married to one of the Coen brothers, you can just pick your roles, and she picks bloody good roles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she kind of reminds me of like the female version of Daniel Day-Lewis.
I'm so glad you said that. I literally thought you were going to say Meryl Streep, and I was like, do I have to tell David she's also an actress? Yeah. Do you know what? I'm doing the same picks here. I think McDormand's going to win for Nomadland, but I'd like to see Carey Mulligan get it for Promising Young Woman. And lastly, we've got Best Actor, which, again, we've got Riz Ahmed, Chadwick Boseman, Anthony Hopkins, Gary Oldman, and Stephen Yeun. Now, the only one not nominated there was Stephen Yeun and Gary Oldman. The other 3 were nominated for Best Actor at the Baftas as well. And just like the Baftas, I think it's going to be a straight shoot between Riz Ahmed and Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, I kind of hope, even though Chadwick Boseman is obviously not with us anymore, I kind of hope Riz Ahmed.
Well, what we've been doing is making our picks based on what we've been reading and the buzz on the internet.
But from everything I've seen, Riz Ahmed looks like he probably should win it, but I don't think he will. I think Chadwick Boseman's going to win it.
Yeah, so that wraps up our BAFTAs and Oscars debate about a whole bunch of films that we've not seen yet.
Yeah, pick from that what you will.
Well, that's about all the time we got today on the We Needed Roads podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our witterings away about all the Oscar and BAFTA nominations that have come out in the past couple of days and weeks. And hopefully we'll be able to get to see some of the films soon and actually give you our proper, fully informed opinions on them. So
and actually know what we're talking about.
But, I mean, as I say, there are quite a few films that we hadn't heard of before that are available, such as His House. So that's on Netflix. Go watch it, you know.
Yeah, Neil, go watch it.
I'm going to, but I'm also gonna make you go and watch Judas and the Black Messiah on VOD now.
Yeah,
so
okay,
you can pay for
enough.
that from your pocket.
Yeah,
you can pay out for that for your pocket
money.
So that's all for today. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast. See you next time.
The script just says bye-bye for me, so bye-bye.
You're not supposed to read, the script says.
We Needed Roads.